We're just about to get started here. Hello, and welcome to the Modern College Roadmap, Part 3. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. I'm Carrie Jorgensen, co-founder of Early Bird, and I'm joined today by Siobhan Adams, one of our incredible counselors. This is Part 3 of our Modern College Roadmap series, and today we're diving into one of the most misunderstood topics in college prep, summer. It's not just what to do with it, but how to think about it. And so by the end of today, you'll have a clear framework for making this summer genuinely count. So here's where we're headed today. We'll start with why summer actually matters to admission readers, and it might surprise you. Then we'll break down our substance framework, really the difference between depth and breadth and why that matters. And from there, we'll walk through specific options: academics, activities, programs, getting an old-fashioned job, and community service. And then we'll pull back the curtain on what readers are really evaluating and show you how it all translates into an actual application. We will, of course, close with Q&A, so start getting your questions ready now, and we'll definitely leave some room for questions at the end. Over to you, Siobhan.
Thank you, Carrie. Hello, everyone. So we're just going to start just jumping right on in there and talk about the importance of summer. Let me say this. I realize wholeheartedly how much, as students, you look forward to summer break. And it is definitely an opportunity to step away from school, from your coursework, and just get a breather. But summer is also a perfect opportunity to be the most, what's the best word I can say this, to be the most productive when it comes to the college application process. It's one of the most visible windows into who a student actually is. And so when there are no teachers assigning projects and there are no coaches making them show up, a lot of the times, a lot of the admissions officers and the readers are asking, what is a student choosing to do outside of being a student, outside of the traditional school year? So summer is that unstructured time, and it's an opportunity for a student to use the time to take the initiative, to demonstrate their curiosity, and to showcase their character. And for many families who understand this, they really do have an early advantage when they do take advantage of the summer break.
Absolutely. Good points all around. Okay, so we like to think about summer in terms of building a summer of substance and really using this framework. So colleges are no longer counting activities. There's not like a checkbox in terms of, okay, this student did 8 things, so that's an automatic in. That is not how admissions is done. They're really trying to read your story year over year. Growth in 1 or 2 areas really tells a much more compelling story than a long list of one-time involvements. And so the student who joined 8 clubs really honestly does look scattered. But the student who showed up for the same thing for 3 years and then eventually led that initiative, that's the one who stands out. So leadership really isn't a title you put on an application. It's something that you earn through sustained commitment. And admission officers absolutely know the difference immediately. And so what I implore you to do as a parent is to ask your student, if you're trying to think, well, how are we going to fill these 2-3 months coming up? What would you do this summer if no one was watching and it wasn't going to be on your application? How your student answers that question is exactly how you should start thinking about how to frame your summer, because that's how you follow passion and genuine interest, which unlocks the most authentic application, which is exactly what admission officers are looking for. And so in terms of depth over breadth, that's a concept that we come back to frequently here at Early Bird. The resume padding era is over. Gone are the days of admission readers, wanting to see you put fluff in your activities list or on your resume, and they can tell quite quickly.
What?
And they can tell quickly.
I mean, I'm on phone, but I'm not on phone.
Jessica, can you mute please? Thanks so much. And students can feel it too. So there's nothing worse, honestly, than spending a summer doing something that means nothing to you. And so whatever you do, we want for you to do it with genuine passion and interest. And that passion is visible in how a student writes about their experience. So performative participation is also really visible, and it's a red flag in an application. One summer of a genuine immersion in something that you love will produce better essays, better interviews, and a more confident student than 5 programs you could choose because you thought that they looked impressive. So the intentionality is really important. And so the question really isn't what looks good, it's what will you actually remember in 10 years? And truly, if you can answer that question and spend your summer doing something that in 10 years time it was meaningful, then that is time well spent. And then the last piece of this framework, when we think about substance, relates to what we call the narrative arc. And so we want you to think of your application as, and I know this sounds kind of silly, but think of it almost like a movie trailer where every scene should build towards something, and a student's summer should feel like the next chapter, not this random subplot. So if a student is working on something, and they're really, for instance, showing a lot of excitement about biology, and they're part of the biology club at school, and they're taking challenging biology coursework. And then over the summer, they decide to do something that is completely unrelated to biology. That's okay, because that could add into kind of an overall narrative. But you also want to spend some of that time in your summer building something that can help add to that biology narrative. So just be intentional with how you choose activities. And admission officers really truly do read hundreds of applications a day, and the ones that stick out are the ones that have that clear line throughout. And your summer is a chance to add another thread to your thread that's already building during the school year. And so quality of reflection always beats quantity of hours. To frame this for you, a student who's spent maybe say 30 or 40 hours on something and can speak deeply about what they learned will always outshine the student who maybe logged 150 or 200 hours, but couldn't tell you why it mattered. And so really thinking about the why behind what you do is essential to building that authentic application, which is what we're always striving for. And so before choosing an activity or a summer activity, a student really should pause and think about, does this connect kind of to my overall story? And if the answer is no, or I'm not sure yet, that's the most important thing to pay attention to and to try and figure out. And that's exactly what the Early Bird platform is designed to do. It's to help you identify what's important to you so that you can build out the most compelling college platform and profile.
Thank you, Carrie. So the other thing that you definitely want to take advantage of during the summer would be the summer classes that actually move the needle. If your student wants to use the summer academically, the key is really doing something that genuinely adds value from an admissions perspective. One of the strongest options is taking a class beyond their high school courses, sometimes even what the high school offers. Sometimes some high schools do not always offer courses that, depending on a student's intended major in college, the student would probably need in order to really stand out as a competitive applicant. So sometimes taking these summer courses are a great way to demonstrate that additional initiative, because the student is saying, you know, my school did not offer this class, but I really want to demonstrate to these colleges that I'm truly, truly invested and I'm really interested. So I'm going to go above and beyond, and I'm going to go outside of what's offered and showcase to the colleges that I am searching for that additional bit of knowledge to help me stand out when applying to colleges. So one strong option would be to take those classes outside of what the schools offers. Again, this is going to show intellectual initiative and then the willingness to seek out new challenges. Summer is also a great time to explore new interests like psychology, coding, economics, engineering, creative writing, or even a new language. It can also be used to strengthen an area where a student's grades may not fully reflect their ability or demonstrate their growth. For example, if a student earned a D grade for whatever the reason may be, sometimes a student may have had a bad day during an exam. Sometimes a student might have just had an entirely bad semester. Things happen, and colleges recognize this. Colleges also recognize that students do have the ability to recover those not so great grades that showcase the student's true ability. And this is where those summer courses will come in hand. A student can enroll in and should enroll in a class during the summer to recover a D grade. One of the things that I like to remind students of is when it comes to those A through G courses, those courses that are required to be eligible for one high school graduation and then eligible for a 4-year degree, is to make sure that you have a C grade or better in those courses. So if a student has earned a D in any of those courses, then it's definitely the best idea to enroll in a summer course to recover the D grade. Additionally, what happens is that although that D grade may not be completely removed from the transcript, the grade that is newly received will reflect on the transcript, and it also helps your GPA. So the other thing that would be important to make note with regard to the summer courses is that these options and this opportunity to take summer courses, they do not have to be expensive at all. There are a variety of affordable options, including the Apex Virtual Learning, and then the Silicon Valley High School. These are online options. They're high school courses. Students are able to enroll in them as they would enroll in any physical on-site school. Additionally, and my favorite are actually the local community colleges, especially if a student is wanting to, of course, recover a grade, but also advance, right? So let's say a student is an engineering student, but the school only offers up to AP statistics or maybe just AP physics. A student may then want to say, you know, I think I really want to demonstrate to the colleges that I am prepared for the undertakings of being an engineering major, a biology major, computer science major at these schools. And so a student may opt to take these community college courses, or another favorite of mine, UC Scout courses, which also offers AP courses as well. So that gives students an opportunity to really demonstrate to their colleges their interest in taking advanced courses, especially through UC Scout. The other thing that I really love about the UC Scout option is sometimes school schedules do not allow for students to take multiple AP courses when they are able to do so academically. Maybe they know that they could handle all of the subjects at once, but sometimes the school schedule might not allow. AP English may happen simultaneous with AP Computer Science. And so UC Scout is a perfect online format and platform for students to enroll in another AP course. One of the things I would definitely like to stress is that admissions officers, they do care far more about rigor, motivation, and consistency rather than the price tag of the program. And so that's really important to sort of keep that in mind. Again, the key there is that you as the student is taking advantage of these courses outside of the classroom offerings. The goal isn't just doing school over the summer, it's using the intentional, to show that curiosity, growth, and academic engagement.
Absolutely. Such great points. The last thing I'll add is on the local community college front. In California, where I live, we have a really great community college network, and
Mhm.
your high school most likely has a relationship with that community college, and you can get what's called dual enrollment sometimes,
Yep,
where you can get
absolutely.
credit actually for your high school as well as the community college credit. But even if you can't get the dual enrollment high school credit, just taking the community college course really says a lot about you as a student. And then when you go to complete your applications, the application asks, have you ever taken a college level course? They're not talking about AP or IB courses. They are talking about truly a college level course. And so if you've taken a community college course, you're able to not only put the course, the grade you earned, and the units. And that really stands out on an application. And then the added benefit beyond that is that if you do well in that class, those units actually start to count towards your college degree. So really an important tool that's pretty underutilized. The only other thing I'll say about these providers, and really you're looking at great providers that cost no more than like a couple $100 down to almost free. So really these are fantastic providers to be focused on, but you do want to think about the best learning format for your student. So Apex Virtual Learning, that's a fan favorite of mine, and they offer an AP psychology class that you can complete in about 10 weeks. And it's like anywhere from 15 to 18 hours a week. And so you have to ask yourself, does my student, is there an interest in this? Does this kind of add to their overall profile and help them really explore and take that initiative in a subject area that's relevant to them? But B, is this the right format for them? Would they thrive in a setting like that? And if the answer is yes, then that's a worthwhile endeavor on the academic front.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, so let's now talk about what's actually worth your time and money in the college admission process versus what's mostly just resume padding, that phrase that we're trying to make sure we are avoiding for our students to do. So on the worth it side, we have the rigorous independent research programs that can carry real weight with colleges. These programs include options like Polygents, which is a mentorship-based research program. Students in this program, they are actually able to work one-on-one with experts to create a real project or a paper. And then there's RSI, or the Research Science Institute, which is a highly selective summer STEM research program. And it's actually hosted by MIT. And then there's Primes, which is essentially programs for research, mathematics, engineering, and science, another STEM program, but it's also another advanced MIT affiliated research program for high school students. So these are the type of programs that carry weight because they demonstrate that a student has a willingness to learn and have hands-on learning experience, as opposed to some programs that are masked by using a prestigious university's name. And so what happens is a lot of times as parents, we are sometimes excited by seeing the name of a certain college or university offering a summer program. But we really want to be careful with those because sometimes we want to make sure that the program is actually being offered by the institution that it's going to be held versus a program or an organization that simply rented the facilities of the universities. So we just really want to be careful with those. And in addition to those programs, you also want to take advantage of meaningful internships or job shadowing experiences. Those are also valuable because they show initiative and then the real world exposure. Another strong use of time is taking an existing project or an interest and then going deeper with it. You might have heard of this as something, maybe turning this one into like a passion project or a personal project, but this one is really great. So for example, if a student has already begun a project or they've already started a club and they say, you know, through that experience, they were able to then grow that into another experience that may have had a larger impact on a person or a group of people. Something like that would be something to think about. Another would be, instead of joining 5 random clubs, a student might expand one research project, business idea, nonprofit, or even a creative pursuit over several years. And here we're looking at quality versus quantity, longest and strongest, right? So something that definitely demonstrates more depth, right? And something that you have demonstrated some passion for, and longevity with. The other thing we want to look into and just be cognizant of is summer travel, right? So travel can definitely be worthwhile, but specifically when it includes a genuine cultural immersion or language learning opportunity, something that demonstrates, okay, I'm taking advantage of this travel opportunity, or I'm very intentional about why I am traveling here this summer, right? We want to be careful that we're not looking into voluntourism, right? Where it's something where you're going to another country or another part of the world, and you're as under the guise of being a volunteer, but what happens is that you become a tourist, right? So you just want to be very cognizant of that and making sure that the travel is meaningful and intentional, right? Although the other thing that you can do during the summer, in addition to these, would be teaching, coaching, or tutoring others. These are all other ways that demonstrate strong activity, because it demonstrates both mastery of subject and your personal maturity. It is another way of, in my opinion, showing philanthropic efforts, right, to help and give back and to, assist others in areas that, again, you demonstrated mastery. Now, on the skip it side, you really want to be cautious about those expensive, prestigious programs at famous universities that are essentially enrichment camps, as we mentioned earlier. Again, just be careful if you are looking into programs such as these. Just read the fine line, read and make sure that you understand what's actually happening on the campus. Make sure you understand who would be the instructors or the camp leaders, just so that you understand. So if I am looking at a program on UCLA's campus, for example, what I would do is learn more about that program. I don't want to simply see UCLA and then immediately sign up. I want to then investigate it's really quick. You can just easily learn, okay, who's operating the program? Is it sponsored by, or is this an organization, again, renting the campus of UCLA or some parts of the campus of UCLA? So you just want to be cognizant of that. And then again, just keep in mind that just because a program is hosted at a well-known institution, again, it doesn't mean that it's a selective or impressive program to the admissions officer. So we just really want to be cognizant of that. Now, again, with the volunteer trips that are essentially vacations, colleges can usually tell, like I said, again, the difference between the service and then the volunteerism, right? So just kind of be cognizant of that. Also skip the generic camps that have no real outcome, project, or leadership, or measurable contribution. You just ensure that you want to have impact versus sometimes what many of these generic camps offer, which are items that have very limited impact. And then finally, definitely avoid the activities that don't connect to the student's actual interests, goals, or personal stories. Admissions officers are usually looking for authenticity and depth, not a long list of disconnected activities. So again, going back to the importance of engaging in meaningful and intentional activities and programming during the summer.
Absolutely. And one last note on the, expensive, more prestigious programs. Brown offers pre-college programs is what they're called. Brown,
Mm-hmm.
Georgetown, all the heavy hitter names that you're used to getting a lot of buzz around selective admission. True, it is very selective to get into those universities, but it is not selective to get into their summer programs. And so the summer programs serve a purpose. It gets students on their college campus. It gets you exposure to coursework that is not offered in traditional high school setting. And it absolutely gives you the chance to really experience college life, which can be transformative for some kids, especially when maybe they need a little push towards getting motivated to really see themselves as a college student. But by and large, these programs are quite expensive. And so generally, if I have a student do a pre-college program and they have the means to do it, I'm wanting you to do that closer to like rising freshman or rising sophomore summers. And you can use it as a chance to really explore, to take a class in something that piques your interest and that you're building toward, but you're not quite sure that that's the right, lane for you to play in. That seems like a great use of time. But to just kind of slap on a highly prestigious college's name onto your activities, that's not the right use case for a program like that when you're a little bit older and should be thinking on a deeper level and doing something that truly is going to move the needle in terms of your application. Speaking of which, here's one thing that absolutely can move the needle on your application. This one, I call it the old-fashioned bucket, and I really love sharing this because it surprises people every time. For those of you that were able to attend our webinar just last week, focusing on admission practices for UC Berkeley, Duke, Notre Dame, and Columbia, we learned a really interesting statistic from Diane, one of our college counselors who reads for Duke, and she shared that Duke had about 60,000 applicants in 1 year. And 5,000 of those applicants reported on their application that they had a job. And of those 5,000 applicants, 75% of those 5,000 were accepted to the university. Now, compare that to the admit rate for early decision for Duke, which is about 14%, or regular decision, which sits at just under 4%. And those stats are for the class of 2030. That's insane. So really think about that. A regular job, a barista, a lifeguard, a babysitter, something in retail. All of those jobs really signal responsibility, time management, and real world initiative. Because guess what? You have to work hard to get that job and then to keep that job and to build depth within that job and then communicate that out on your application. And it's really, it's the kind of thing that cannot be faked or bought, and admission officers find it refreshing. And not to mention you're earning money and you're gaining real world skills. And so if your student is on the fence and of an age where getting a job makes sense, I highly recommend that they do, because it can really be beneficial for the application and beneficial for them as a human being as they grow. I know I still remember my very first waitressing job, and many of the lessons that I learned in that waitressing job about how to interact with people and be professional and act under pressure have stuck with me as an adult in the professional world. I think probably everyone on this webinar can agree the value of just rolling up your sleeves and getting to work can't be underestimated. Here's another piece that really can't be underestimated if you execute this correctly. So community service really is unfortunately misunderstood in the college planning process, because families, they totally treat it like a checkbox. They're like, oh yeah, we got to go, volunteer a little bit because colleges want that. Yes, colleges want that, but you want to be really intentional about it and doing it really for the right reasons. And I like to explain to students that I think about community service as really looking in the mirror and thinking about what is it that who you are and how you want to give back to help yourself evolve, but also help your surrounding community. And local is honestly always best. So community service really lends to a lot of different benefits. The best community service experiences change the student, not just the community that they've served. And so what I like my students to think about is, what did you learn about yourself during this time where you were serving others? What challenged you? And that's really what shows up in essays and interviews. And service that produces growth is absolutely memorable. Service that produces hours on a spreadsheet, not so much. Community service, engaging in that can also really help with major and career clarity. I'll give you an example. I had a student last cycle who she wants to become a doctor, and she was a biology major. She actually got a job in a physical therapist office. And then in addition to that job, she volunteered with Special Olympics. So she was actually doing the high school equivalent to the closest degree of working directly with patients or individuals who had different health needs. And that really, it shined bright on her application, and happy to report she's going to be starting at USC this coming fall. So summer service can really be a low stakes way to test a career path. And I really encourage families to think about it that way. So if your student, for instance, is interested in policy, maybe find a local advocacy organization and volunteer there. It's really one of the smartest ways to use service, not only as exploration. Obviously, it's altruistic, but it also creates that natural thread that I was alluding to earlier, from service to intended major. So being strategic around service makes a lot of sense, and it's something for students to focus on. Also, of course, it lends to better mental health and well-being. And this one matters a lot. A summer with structure and purpose and human connection that gets kids off of screens and connected with folks in their own community is genuinely good for teenagers. It's good for everybody. And so students who really spend time doing that meaningful service consistently report, that they feel more grounded, and it helps give them that, unlock that authenticity and give them that vision and excitement for their own future. And we all know that purpose is really something that matters a lot in this world. Community service also promotes, community and connection. Service done locally. I'm going to say this really carefully here, and it's very important. Service done in your own community, your own neighborhood, and consistently builds something that no program can. And that is real relationships and real reputation within your own community. So a student that's known at their local food bank or their animal shelter or literacy program is a student that has roots, and a student that could maybe leverage that relationship for a letter of recommendation, or really just truly showing hey, I'm in touch with my own community, and this is how I've given back, because that then translates directly onto your college application. And ultimately, colleges are looking for people that admit individuals who will contribute to their own campus community and the campus culture and life at that community. So thinking through kind of how you give back and how that translates on an application is really important. I'll make a quick note. So I've had students in the past who have found pretty cool kind of virtual community service roles. One who was an art history major, and she ended up getting a virtual community service role with the Smithsonian, and she was helping to index some of the archives through the Smithsonian. And that was kind of on brand for her with her interest in art history. And so that was a virtual way for her to give back. And as long as if you're engaging in something virtually, I would want to make sure that it ties into your narrative. Otherwise, it really does need to be in person and giving back directly to your own community. So last thing here is the question is always really the same. Was there real impact and real relationship and real output? And if the answer is yes, then you've spent great quality time giving back.
Okay, so here's the insider's view. When a reader is looking at a student's summer, they're asking 4 questions. Initiative. Did the students seek out this role themselves, or did a parent arrange it? And then there was growth. Did they take on more responsibility over time, or was it static? And if I can spend a moment on that, in other words, when we talk about a student growing through an opportunity, what we're looking at is, have they learned? Have they grown? Have they gotten additional experience? Or was it just a filler task, right? So we really want to look at those different opportunities. And then impact. Did they leave something better than they found it, right? Did they have an impact on someone? Were they able to positively influence someone? Were they themselves positively influenced? And then alignment. Does any of this connect to their academic interests and the story they're telling in their essays? Do I have a student who, for example, says that they want to be a biology major, but they're demonstrating their passion or their interest in art with zero connection perhaps to biology? Which is fine. It's definitely fine to have interests outside of one's intended major. That is 100% fine. But you want to be able to, in your application portfolio, demonstrate your interest and your intrigue into the intended major that you plan to pursue in college. And if a student can answer yes to most of these questions, the summer's working. The summer is working exactly the way it's supposed to, again, because the student is taking time out from their break to demonstrate their true desire to showcase to the admission readers who they are outside of simply being a student.
Absolutely. So how does summer actually show up on the application? And the answer is it can come up in essays, but it absolutely will come up on what's called the activities list. And so most students apply to college on what's called the Common App, which houses about 1,100 different universities. And within the Common App, you have the opportunity to write about up to 10 different activities. You only have 150 characters per activity. And summer engagement is a great thing to include on that activities list. And so really it comes up in a couple different ways, and it's really important to be intentional about how you talk about what you've done over the summer. So we're going to give you a couple examples that really will hopefully illuminate the correct way to be communicating to colleges. So instead of writing volunteered at food bank, you would want to write something like led weekly distribution for 200 plus families and trained 12 volunteers and expanded to Saturday hours. Remember, you only have 150 characters, so it has to be really short and punchy. So the activities list is really where kind of the substance comes alive and really should not be counted out and is an instrumental part of the application. And what I always tell students, a way that colleges can see your heart, like the heartbeat of the student. And within the Early Bird platform, we actually have an activities section, and there's 10 different spots for students to start to fill out their activities so that when it comes time to completing the actual application on the Common App, it's ready to go, it's in the right format, and they've really thought through exactly what intentionally should go in that part of the application. And so here's a quick deep dive on kind of writing your activities list and showing more weaker descriptions versus stronger ones. So perhaps a student in this group heeds our advice and they do go get a job, and they're a barista and they're the shift lead. So you would want to, of course, put that on your activity list. You want to let the reader know where you performed the job. And then you want to give context. So letting them know that you did this for 10 weeks straight at 10 hours a week. And then specifically leading with a strong verb and as many metrics as possible. You can see in this description that there's 3 different numbers that the student alludes to in the 150 characters. So managed morning rush for 100 plus daily customers. Wow. Trained 2 new hires and promoted to shift lead within 6 weeks. That tells a story. It tells impact, and it is the perfect way to write an activities description. The second one there is for somebody who spent some time volunteering at their local food bank. And so what do? Again, they contextualized it. They started with a strong verb. Organized is absolutely okay. You don't have to be a leader in everything you do, but they want to know, what did you do? And start with a punch in that first word. Organized weekly distributions for 300 plus families, recruited 10 volunteers, created reusable training guide. Okay, wow, that's really interesting. So as I'm reading that, I would want to know, like, I wonder if that's going to come up in one of the students' supplemental essays. I would love to know more about that particular thing. And so thinking through what you're presenting your activities and then translating that into effective essays is really important. Couple other ideas here and examples, and we'll share this recording with you as well, so you can dive a little bit deeper. But independent researcher, back to Polygence, one of our partners here at Early Bird. But they, if you completed a one-to-one research program, you can say that you analyzed 20 years of wildfire data, and then you authored an 8-page paper on climate displacement patterns and presented it to 3 mentors. Wow, does that not scream that you are ready for the college classroom? I think it does. Or maybe you spent some time tutoring over the summer and you self-initiated it. You could talk about that. And designing lessons for 4 students, that takes work and time and effort. And 3 of the 4 students that you worked with raised their letter grade, and then you expanded your practice by the end of the summer. Perhaps you spent some time caring for a sibling, and that is absolutely okay. Family responsibility is something, I would put that right up there with work. Something colleges want to see, and they want to know your context and your reality. And if the reality is that you are the oldest sibling of 4 other siblings, and you need to spend your summer driving around your siblings and babysitting and giving them snacks and making sure that they're taken care of so that your parents can work, that belongs on the application, and that belongs absolutely as an activity. And it's one that's worth mentioning and quantifying. And again, shows that responsibility and gives the reader the context into who you are. And then the YouTube creator and editor, cool. If somebody's got more of a creative flair and maybe they spent their summer toying around, it again shows that drive, that creativity, and it is quantified. So produced 8 short documentaries on local environmental issues, grew to 1,200 followers, and partnered with 1 local nonprofit. And the only other thing I would add to this is probably if you have a clickable link to your YouTube so that the admission reader who's curious takes a quick peek. You can also put that in the additional comments. That is a really great idea. So, clearly these 150 characters play a key role in the application, and most students unfortunately waste it by describing a task. But strong entries and intentional entries really tell a story. And summer is absolutely the time to show off your initiative, your growth, your impact, and your alignment. And so thinking about summer in a strategic way to add to the activities list is really a worthwhile endeavor. And so we're officially in the best part of the webinar, which is your questions. So please take a moment and drop them in the chat. And while you're thinking about those questions, you can absolutely head over to earlybirdcollege.com and check out our platform. We are really excited to be working with families all over the United States and giving them a roadmap to plan for college and find their child's best fit. Our platform brings both parents and students in alignment on the platform together. We showcase 256 colleges, and the common theme with each of these colleges on our platform is that they all have 80% or higher retention rates. So these are schools that really do a great job of keeping students happy from year 1 to year 2. So do yourself a favor, please check out our platform, and please also put your questions in the chat. Let's see, do we have any questions? Okay, here we go. Looks like we have one from, let me scroll up to the top. One from Nikki. Have you ever taken a college level class, not AP? Do they ask this in the college application? Yes, great question. So within the Common App, there's a section to report the high schools that your student has attended, as well as any colleges that they've attended. And so when you're reporting the college that they've attended, you would put, for instance, your local community college, and you would also report the course that you took, as well as the grade and the units. And then you also, when you're applying, it's going to be expected that you send the official transcript from the community college to all of the colleges on your list, so that they can validate what you're saying in the application. Your high school counselor takes care of sending the high school transcript, which validates all the courses and the grades that you report on the application, but it's on the applicant to send their any college level transcripts to the colleges that they're applying to. Great question. And let's see, Robin has a question here. My daughter's sports schedule is ridiculously demanding and really limits her ability to do a lot of other meaningful activities. How do you recommend we manage through that? Yes, the kids who are really hyperactive in sports is amazing. It's a passion, and it's something you can absolutely learn so much from being part of a sports team, especially on the leadership front and character development. I would say that's where summer is going to be especially important, just to add a little bit more dimensionality. When you're reporting activities on your application, absolutely you can put that you are part of your school's water polo team, but then you also play club water polo. And those should belong as, two different entries in your activity list, because they're demanding in different ways, and maybe you have different roles on the two respective teams. You can also, of course, add maybe a third entry into things that you do related to water polo, like off-season training or swimming or something like that. But then you want to think about how the application reads, and not having it be too one note. And so my athletes, I always tell them the best times to take advantage are things that are already built into their schedule. So during the school day, join a club or two. It's not that hard to take 30 minutes to attend a club meeting at lunch. You're already there. That's a great way to get involved and get to know your community. And then the other piece is, don't worry about going and adding new things, but think about leveraging things you've already done. And so maybe you did a project in your US history class that examined voter rights. And so then you could take that project over the summer and take it one notch deeper by partnering with an advocacy organization. And maybe that's a 10 to 15 hour lift that can probably be squeezed in while still playing sports. So creative with your time.
Sorry, and the other thing, if I can add, she said you nailed it, by the way, both water polo and swim. The other thing that I would also add is, this is also an opportunity to showcase your leadership skills. You can control something, right? And that, by what I mean by that is, maybe you can begin a club, right? But you are controlling the output. Maybe you'll have a co-president of that particular club, something that's demonstrating, again, your leadership skills, but also demonstrating that you are doing something that's community-based, or something that you can share with your school community. So I like to look at it as, if I am in both water polo and swim, maybe I'll start, assuming that it doesn't exist at your school yet, maybe I'll start a poetry club, but it doesn't really take a lot of time for me, because maybe it's just submission based, right? Maybe it's just that I'm collecting poems and I'm putting together what's going to be the output for the school to then be able to share and read our collective work, right? Something that you can control the time and the amount of time that it takes for you to do.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Any other questions? I know it can be overwhelming. There's a whole menu of options out there, and it's hard to find what works. But genuinely, if you take the time to ask your student that key question, which is, if you had a completely free summer and you weren't going to report it on college applications, and you truly could do anything you wanted that was meaningful to you, that's a good place to listen, and following that gut intuition and genuine trail, I think will ultimately only net out good results. Excellent. All right, well, the recording we will absolutely have available, and make sure that we send this your way. I think the survey did go into this next slide. Let me see here. Okay, so let's see. And one last piece on the early bird platform piece that I'll mention. So this is a peek into what our software looks like and how we could support you and your student. But we do also have an expert marketplace, which features college ambassadors representing the 256 schools on our platform, as well as college counselors and writing experts. And our services are offered really at a fraction of the cost of what's out there. And we're so excited to be partnering with families and to get you active in the marketplace and active on the platform. So looking forward to hopefully having a lot of you join us on the platform. Speaking of which, feel free to use that QR code to head right to earlybirdcollege.com. And if you're able to take the 1-minute survey, which is in the chat, we will in exchange be happy to let you try out our premium features on the platform for 1 month free. So feel free to take a look there. And last but not least, register for our next webinar, which is the application and essay deep dive, and more details to follow on that front as well. So thanks everybody. Really appreciate this lively and active group, and we'll be in touch with the recording soon.